Hello everybody, I'm Don Counts and this is Carol Foster, and we've been roaming around Fayetteville and Lincoln County for a long time, and now we are at Dunroamin.
All right, Dunroamin.
Tell everybody about what we're going to do today.
We're going to tell everybody about the life and history of Havelon and Jimmy Gearish. Havelon and Jimmy did so much for Fayetteville, Tennessee, and today they're still doing a lot, even though they have been gone for several years. So we're going to share a lot about, tell a lot of wonderful stories.
Done a lot for the community, and we're going to find out about that. We are at the Dunroamin Pavilion and Park, and this is a place in which you actually
went to camp. It was Camp Dunroamin for 30 years. It was a girls' camp for 30 days, and then the boys came for 30 days, and everybody had a blast. And like I said, it went on for 30 years, so a lot of people came for several years.
Carol Foster and myself are both Rotarians, and so were the Gearishes. Jimmy
Gearish was a Rotarian at Farrar Rotary Club. He was president of the Rotary Club, and he was also district governor of District 6780 in 1957 and 58. Now, Havelon was not a member, but she played the piano in the Rotary Club for several years, even after Jimmy passed away.
And district governor is a big thing, something that you have been.
Yes, I was district governor in 1910, and I was very honored to follow in the footsteps of Jimmy Gearish.
The Gearishes were a big part of Fayetteville, Lincoln County and the Rotary Club, and we are at the camp here, and we're going to tour the camp. And also during this program, Carol has arranged interviews with different people that's going to tell you stories about the Gearishes.
Correct. You're going to hear about their life. They were both teachers at Robert E. Lee School. They went to the First Presbyterian Church. Havelon was a member of Junior Round Dozen Club. They had a lot of activity going on, and you're going to hear a lot about their life.
Camp Dunroamin here on Fayetteville Public Utilities Channel 6, and we're going to tour it, and we're going to hear a lot about Jimmy and Havelon Gearish.
Havelon and Jimmy Gearish were my friends, and quite a few times cohorts in assorted enterprises. Havelon was originally from Ohio. She always signed her name Havelon E. Gearish. The E was for Eberwine. E, B as in boy, E-R-W-I-N-E, Eberwine. She was born April 8, 1903, and died June 22, 1991. Although always called Jimmy, her husband was Charles A. Gearish, originally from Canada. My association with them did not concern their everyday jobs, but rather their deep interest in music, drama, and the arts in general, where our paths tended to cross. Jimmy, as a teacher of speech and drama, covered the local earth with many students who were thus prepared in varying degrees to step bravely forward on an assortment of stages. Those students have now pretty much gone to their heavenly reward. Perhaps there are those of you who will remember Dot Thompson and her incarnation of Minnie Pearl. She was one of Jimmy's students. Jimmy was not primarily a musician, but he did sing in the First Presbyterian Church choir for a very long time. At that church, he was also responsible for bringing into special programs his acquaintance with the great paintings of the recent several hundred years. Havelon had a lush soprano voice. She directed the choir for 30 years with ease and authority, played piano expertly, played her own little box organ and the pipe organ, and one day she showed up at First Pres with a concertina-sized accordion. Because of her experience as an actress, it was always a good idea to let her do any necessary narration. To any fellow Presbyterian, her name brings instantly to mind something like eons of opening every Sunday morning service with an organ piano duet. Havelon at the piano, Lenore Pigg at the organ.
Parenthetically, it's hard for people today to realize that throughout from the late 19th century through much of the 20th, Fayetteville was accustomed to live entertainment. And one of the distinctions of our little town was that the Chautauqua came for a solid week here. Most places, even larger, it only stopped for a day or two or an overnight. But here it was for a week. And it brought wonderful musicians and lecturers and drama to the hinterlands. And in 1934, an actor, Jimmy Gearish, and a musician and dancer, I believe, Havelon, were on the Chautauqua circuit. And during their stay, at least the oft-told tale is that Mr. Gearish circulated around the square and found people here were very welcoming and very cordial. And perhaps they also found that there was a void left by the retirement of a long-time private teacher of dramatics, elocution, and dance here. So the Gearishes decided to settle here, and they canceled, I believe he was lined up to be in a New York stage production. And they came to Fayetteville, and they gave, he taught dramatics at the high school, and Mrs. Gearish gave private piano lessons in the schools, and he also had generations of students whom he saw maybe during the school day, but the folks, of course, paid for it. And I know all my first cousins took speech from Mr. Gearish, and one of them used to say, Mr. Gearish could read a grocery list and make it sound fascinating and dramatic.
Carol, this is a beautiful place here at Dunroamin.
It is beautiful, Don, and as we walk into Camp Dunroamin, we will see different buildings. The first one is the craft house, and the craft house is where we made all different type of crafts. In the video, Earlene Patrick will show you some of the crafts that her son made.
Well, I taught at Robert E. Lee, and Mrs. Gearish had piano lessons near my room where I taught 8th grade. And my oldest son took piano lessons from her. And then both of my boys went to camp at Dunroamin several times. I can't remember how many times, but I did keep a lot of the souvenirs that they made. I think they spent 2 weeks each time. And of course they had swimming lessons and they had all kinds. In fact, I brought some show and tell that came from their experience at Dunroamin. This is one thing that the oldest boy made, Don, and it's got his age on here, but this was a print of his hand. And of course, Don died at age 25, and I treasure that very much. And he also made this this was made in 1960. It's got the date on there. And he was a member of the Cherokee tribe. It says Dunroamin to Daddy. And he was really proud of that. And another thing that she taught up there was they did a lot of braiding. I think this is what they wore, their skate key, or whatever key, maybe a house key on these. But both of the boys, Don and Gary, made these, and I love this little belt. But they had all kinds of activities that they did. I think Gary was first in volleyball one year, and it was a very, very good experience for the boys. Also, I'm sure this is something like 50 years old, but they taught weaving. And look how long it's lasted, and I use it all the time. You can tell from looking at it. But it was so good for my boys. Both Don and Gary were there at the same time, and I think they went for 2 weeks. I don't remember how many summers they went, but they looked forward to it. It was really, really a good experience. And as you drove into Dunroamin, there was a driveway that was heart-shaped. I think it's still there. But Mr. and Ms. Gearish came here, I think, when our movie theater was where Norman's furniture store is now. And that was the day before yesterday.
You're also, if you go inside, you'll see a lot of names scratched on the walls. Mm-hmm. All the campers put their names on the walls. Mm-hmm. So that's very exciting to see that. And there's still some of the crafts in the craft house.
Well, I went to crafts, of course, when I was a camper. And we had some good instruction down there. And of course, Miss Havelon was pretty well involved with a lot of that. And but we had some, Phyllis was her name, and she did an excellent job with the crafts and so forth. And you had certain periods each day, whether it was swimming, badminton, crafts, tennis, or whatever. And that's the way your day was structured.
And then at the end, we put on a production when the parents came to pick us up, and it was swimming. We all had to have a red bathing suit, and we had a white swimming cap. And she taught us not only just to swim, but all these fancy stuff. I mean, we were Esther Williams personified. We would like stand in circles, and we would do this, you know, to make the water flutter. And the parents were all in rows going up a hill so they could see down, and they could see all the water, you know. And one stroke was like this, but we didn't do it like that. We put this extra little flip in there that, you know, that showed in the water and stuff.
Looking at what we're seeing today, what does it remind you of the way it was?
Yes, it does. It reminds me very much of the way it was. Of course, the swimming pool is not here now, or the tennis courts, or a few things like that, but basically you have the same feel of Camp Dunroamin.
We've had some video that we'll show you here of some people that on YouTube that have graciously let us use this video from back in the, I don't know what year, the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, it was 1936 to 1966 that there was camps here. Wow. So the video is somewhere in between those dates that you will see, and it's unreal. It shows the beautiful stone swimming pool and a lot of other areas of it.
They said the water was cold.
The water was very cold. Yes, it was. I can remember that. The water was very cold, but it was. They had Red Cross lifesavers that taught swimming. Wow. So this camp was first class.
I went to Dunroamin for, I don't know, best my recollection, about 3 years, and enjoyed it very much. They had the tribes, the Chickasaws, Choctaws, and Cherokees, and I was a Cherokee, and we formed some great young friendships there, and so forth. And Miss Havelon and Miss Jimmy had it very well organized, and they attracted very good people to be counselors, not me, but the other people locally. And Miss Dot Thompson, Sidney Pinkston, I could just go on and on. Cal Turner was another one, and they were very influential, good people. And they had a knack for attracting top-notch people.
And this was Camp Dunroamin. And I look back on that and I think that is amazing what they did. It was 50 girls for a solid month, always 50. And then a couple of weeks later, they brought the boys in, and they had like 50 boys for a solid month. They divided us into groups. We were chiggers, fleas, or gnats. I was a chigger. And you got points for everything that you did, you know, through the month. And then you had a winner at the end, and you had a queen and her court and all this stuff and whatever. But one thing that you got points for was learning everybody's name and where they were from. 50 girls and where they were from. This was just typical Havelon. You know, she wanted us to learn to remember people's names, you know, and stuff and whatever. But they also had, all through the day, you had a certain time that you ate in the mess hall or whatever she called it. You had to always try something, and you always had to eat everything that you put on your plate. Well, one time I thought I was getting applesauce, which I just loved. Turned out it was sweet potatoes, and I wasn't really fond of sweet potatoes. I had to eat every bite. I still do not eat sweet potatoes. And my sister also had an experience with cereal. You had fruit first in the bowl, then cereal. You had to eat every bit of the fruit, and she didn't like that fruit juice in her cereal. But anyway, then we would have sports and like tennis. I mean, she taught you how to play tennis. We did badminton. We did archery. I remember those bows were as tall as I was. I guess it was just because I was in 4th grade or something. But I'd stand it on the ground and then pull it back. But we had arts and crafts. We had a little hut where we went. We made the lanyards that you put your key on, you know, your skate key and stuff like that. Basket weaving. I love the basket weaving. All sorts of sports. And then we had things like we had to clean up. We had to clean up the paths through the woods, and we had to put rocks along the sides and stuff. We had swimming. Went to swimming every day. Cold showers. She taught us. We had songs. She had a songbook of Dunroamin songs. She had at least 100. I remember a little yellow book. We sang songs about chiggers, fleas, and gnats, and about how much we loved Dunroamin and all this type of stuff.
I knew Miss Gearish from the 1st grade in 1946. She was what we called a song band teacher at Robert E. Lee Elementary School. And there were several students in her song band class, and she taught music, singing, and we did skits and song band. And Miss Havelon was a lovely lady. She and Mr. Jimmy had no children, but every student was a child of theirs.
Miss Havelon certainly gave me an appreciation for music, which is one of the most beautiful gifts anyone can give someone, is the love of music. And I began playing actually the organ at First Methodist Church when I was 15, and played for Sunday night services, the piano most of the time on that, and continued on for 50 years. And Miss Havelon did expect you to do as she instructed, and if you practiced daily, you had no issues. You were able to do what she expected you to do. And she was very loving about doing this to me. And I did practice every day with the instructions of my mother and father. They insisted I do that. Miss Havelon, when we had recitals, she not only expected you to say, "I shall play so-and-so," she wanted you to make a few statements about the composer. And I found this book that had her writing in it, which was very unique, her writing was. And you stated these few little sentences, and then you played, which gave you a little bit of instruction in speech. this was a song that I played in the senior recital. This was in 1958. And practically every Polish musician has expressed his love for his country by some outstanding composition. Frédéric Chopin has expressed the vigor and strength of his loved homeland Poland in this piece, which was Military Polonaise. She expected you to forgive or give up basketball, softball during spring recital time. She didn't want any hurt fingers, any hurt hands. I was sort of a tomboy. I didn't particularly like that, but I did give it up. So there were no instances of hurt.
How did the Gearishes obtain this property here?
When they moved to Fayetteville, they were in a theatrical group, would go around doing a lot of acting and drama. And Jimmy came here one time for a play, and he walked around the square and everybody spoke to him. He said, Havelon, we're moving to Fayetteville, Tennessee.
I'm very proud of Fayetteville, and I love Fayetteville and the people here. And I'm always told about what a friendly town it is. Well, as the story goes, and I think Miss Havelon confirmed this over the years, that they were part of the Chautauqua movement. And Joel Hastings can pronounce that word much better than I can. But Chautauqua out of New York, a city up there, Lake Chautauqua. And it was a kind of a traveling show, not only entertainment, but educational. And these actors and actresses, of which Mr. Jimmy and Miss Havelon were, I think they were from Canada and came to the Chautauqua area by way of Broadway, became a member of it and traveled the country. And as the story goes, and again, Miss Havelon confirmed this, Mr. Jimmy was in Fayetteville doing one of these performances. And Miss Havelon was in Iowa or Nebraska or someplace. So he called her that night and said, Havelon, I found a place for us to move. And she said, where's that? He said, Fayetteville, Tennessee. And she said, in certain words, why in the world would you want to move to Fayetteville, Tennessee? And he said, I've just been around the square and everybody I met spoke to me. And it was fortunate that he had that conversation with the people around the square because he moved here, or they moved here. And again, I was surprised to find out that they had lived here for so many years when I first heard the name, probably in the mid-50s. But they'd been here almost 20 years by that time.
The Rotary was a very important part of their lives. And Mr. Jimmy was district governor, and they toured quite a bit, and he was an excellent governor. His speaking abilities and so forth and so on were exceptional. And my dad was president, J. Paul Richardson was president of the Rotary Club locally here the year Mr. Jimmy was governor, and he got quite a workout. But they awarded all of us Paul Harris Fellowships, which is the top award in Rotary. All the past presidents, I was a past president at that time in 73 or 4. And they gave, Rotary gave them a lot and they gave Rotary a lot. Miss Havelon always was there every Tuesday playing the piano and leading singing. And that added quite a bit to the club meetings and so forth, and she took a genuine interest in doing that. And but they were great Rotarians, and Rotary was a big part of their lives.
I attended Rotary. I became a member of Fayetteville Rotary Club in 1983, and I attended meetings previous to that, off and on, when she was the pianist and he was the song leader. Mr. Jimmy joined the Rotary Club soon after the founding of the club in Fayetteville, that 1935. Ms. Gearish became the pianist for the club in 1936 following Miss Emma Stone, who was the first pianist, and then Miss Oma Goodrich next. And from 1936 to about 86, 87, Ms. Gearish was our piano player. Mr. Jimmy he was Fayetteville Rotary for a number of years. He became president of Rotary Club in 1946, 47 year, and he became the district governor of our district in 1957, 58. In Miss Havelon's will, she left a bequest to Rotary Club. I believe the amount of money was $259,000. All of that went to Rotary International Foundation, but with that bequest, she made 59 Rotarians Paul Harris Fellows. So we had quite a ceremony. I think it was in the fall of '91. Rotarian Bill Sargent, who I always looked up to as Mr. Rotarian for the district, came and was the presenter that day, and we had several of the past district governors visit with us, along with some area Rotary dignitaries that were there for that meeting. And it was quite impressive, and our Fayetteville Rotary Club got a lot of publicity as a result from that.
I am the pastor of First Presbyterian Church here in Fayetteville, Tennessee. I have been here since 1996. My connection to the Gearishes has at least a 5-year gap because Mrs. Gearish passed away in 1991, 5 years before I came here. Soon after I came to Fayetteville, I became a member of the Fayetteville Rotary Club, and that increased my connection to them. They were members here at First Pres before I came. They were also very involved members of the Fayetteville Rotary Club. And my connection to them came when Mac Hamilton asked me to work with him with the Rotary Awards and the scholarships that are awarded each year to students at the high school. And 2 of the awards are the Gearish Drama Award and the Gearish Music Award that are funded by a gift that was left to the Rotary Club by the Gearishes. And so each year the drama department and the music department at the high school select a winner for each of those awards, and they are awarded a cash prize, and they come to the Rotary Club. And through the years we've had some of the musical and drama award winners actually entertain us with some of their gifts and skills. And so I have been a part for the last 6 or more years each year finding out who those award winners are and making contact with them, inviting them to come to a Rotary Club meeting where we recognize them and present that gift. And so the awards for music and drama would not be awarded had it not been for the Gearishes and their passion both for Rotary and for music and drama in this community.
They started looking for property, and this property where Camp Dunroamin is, all the way from the highway to here, was for sale due to unpaid taxes.
They acquired land on the back of the Judy farm here, and since they had quit moving around on the circuits, they called their home and later camp Dunroamin. And in 1936 they opened a summer camp on that property.
So Jimmy bought the property and made it, and even built his mother a home on up the road a little bit. So his mother even lived on this property with the camp.
He made it a beautiful place, and the people that we're going to meet here in just a little bit have done their best to keep it sort of like what it was.
We're very proud that they have. The Davidsons have a lot of the same history. He was in the military and they traveled a lot, and they're Dunroamin.
Wow.
That's the reason the name of Camp Dunroamin is because they were through Roman, the Gearishes were, and now the Davidsons are, and they're here and they're trying to keep the feel of Camp Dunroamin, and it still does. So let's go see the rest of it. And now we're at the pavilion with Cindy and Raye, and they're going to show us inside the house and other areas of this part of the Camp Dunroamin. But first of all, I want to show you the middle cabin. The middle cabin is where Bill Jenkins lived for several years when Jimmy Gearish was in Robert E. Lee teaching and doing drama, and Bill was a PE teacher. One day, Jimmy Gearish said, "Bill, if something ever happens to me, will you please take care of my wife, Havelon?" And he said, "I will, Mr. Gearish." And that's what happened. When Mr. Gearish died, Bill moved into what we call the middle cabin. And he lived here for several years, married Deborah Daves, and they even had a daughter, Laney, and so they lived here for a while. Then Bill saved up his money and he was going to purchase some more land and properties for his family, and Miss Havelon said, "Let me make you a deal. If you'll still live here and take care of me, I will sell you Camp Dunroamin on a teacher's salary." And that's what she did. And so that's how Bill Jenkins ended up with the property in Camp Dunroamin, and then we will go later on into how the Davidsons end up with it. But right now, let's go into the pavilion.
Okay.
Would you please tour us?
Sure, follow us.
You know, when Camp Dunroamin was here, this pavilion was so much fun. We had a lot of activities here, especially when it was raining. We would come in here and we would have a lot of games and do different things in this wonderful pavilion. We have so much fun. Of course, right beside it is where Havelon and Jimmy lived. So that was always like a little secret to us because we were not able to go into the home. So it was fun when every once in a while we did get to go into their beautiful home. But the pavilion right now, tell us what it's used for now. And we mentioned the Davidsons purchased the property from Bill Jenkins. So tell us a little bit about the Davidsons.
Mark and Cheryl Davidson purchased the home in 1995. He was actually overseas. He was in the military, and she wanted to find a home for her children. She was tired of them traveling and moving around constantly. So she found this place while he was overseas.
And then she was Dunroamin.
There you go.
Yes, so the Davidsons had settled here and said the Davidsons are now Dunroamin. So.
Okay, the Davidsons, they live here, correct?
They do.
In the same part of the Dunroamin that the Gearishes did, is that right?
They live on the Gearish's side. For the first several, I guess about 7 years, they lived on the side where the counselors stayed. The 6 of them, the 5 children and the mother, Cheryl. And then they've recently moved over there.
Okay, and all these beautiful tables are set up and the decorations. So what are y'all doing in Camp Dunroamin today?
We use this as a venue now. We have weddings out here, bridal showers, anniversary parties, rehearsal dinners, anything that anybody has a need for, a big celebration.
And now we're going to go into where the counselor stayed when it was Camp Dunroamin. And as I said, this is where the counselor stayed. Of course, when we were in cabins as campers, we had to use an outhouse for 30 days. Oh. So that wasn't much fun, but we envied the counselors because they did have an inside restroom. Of course, that's what we were used to at our homes. But here at Camp Dunroamin, we all had the outhouse to use.
I don't guess you'd call it fondest memory, but the thing that comes to mind first were the outhouses. You know, you don't learn to appreciate things until you run into things like outhouses. To this day, if I ever pick up a roll of toilet paper that's just sitting on the floor, I look inside to see if there's a spider crawling around or something. But you would sit there and you would dodge things, you know, flying around your head and hoping there wasn't anything flying around below. But the outhouses were a real experience.
But this is where the counselor stayed, but it's different, it's changed. So what is it now, in 2013?
In 2013, in January, we came over here and began remodeling, and we have turned this into the kitchen, so anybody that books the venue out here, they have full use of the kitchen.
We actually came here, she called me up, I go to church with her son and daughter-in-law, and she wanted me to paint a mural on one of these outside walls. And we pulled up, I told Cindy, I said, this is the most beautiful place I believe I've ever seen. It's like a hidden treasure right here in town. And so she began to tell us something about it, and come to find out, I knew a man that had gone to camp here in 1956, Bill Richard. And she began to talk, and I said, you know, this would be a perfect spot for weddings. And Cindy's daughter's going to be getting married. She got married last Saturday here. This was in January. She said, this would be a perfect spot for Cassie's wedding. Well, things progressed, and we started looking around, and my husband does building and contracting. And she asked us, well, could y'all remodel the bathroom? Well, yes, we can. We remodeled the bathroom. Well, what about this little room? Used to be the kitchen. Well, we remodeled that little room, made it into a bridal suite. well, what about this bedroom? Well, we made this bedroom into a kitchen, and so here we are today at Dunroamin Pavilion.
So you're talking about going through these doors
Yes,
for all
ma'am.
these beautiful rooms that you just mentioned. Well, let's go check those out.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I remember this part because, like I said, this is where the counselors were, but also this is where Bill and Deborah Jenkins lived when they were living here. This was one of their areas, and of course the restroom. But now what is this room?
This is now the bridal suite. So when they're here for a wedding, they can use this little room to get ready and have the bridesmaids tend to them. And there's a little shift row behind us that they can use to hang their clothes in, and a little vanity to sit at and fix their hair, put on their makeup.
And then also when the counselors were here, another advantage that they had over us, they had an ironing board, and it was in the wall. And that was one thing about Camp Dunroamin. When we came as a camper, we had to wear certain things for special occasions. We had red Bobby Brooks shorts that were knee-high, and a T-shirt that had the Camp Dunroamin logo, and so it was really just top of the line. And this was the ironing board that they probably ironed some of our clothes,
I'm
and
sure
we
they
got them
did.
all messed up.
This little room that we're in now, the bridal suite, when Mark and Cheryl moved in, was the kitchen. And she had 4 children that she was taking care of and raising, and they were teenagers. So can you imagine having this as your kitchen, trying to cook for all those children and, you know, make a home out of this? I mean, it's such a beautiful place, though. I probably would do the same thing. It's
Right.
very beautiful. Now, the next room we're going into is going to be the bathroom, and that's where all the counselors got their showers and everything. And on these walls, they had the shower heads just coming out. It was all concrete. And the little cabinet you see with the window, that's an original window out of the Dunroamin camp home. And we put it in there. My husband built that around it. We put it in so it could be original to the home. And we wanted to fix it like it would have been for that era of a home. So we think it's a very beautiful little bathroom.
And then this right here was the middle cabin. When it was a camp, it was bunk beds all along the side of here. And I can remember one criteria when you came to Camp Dunroamin is you had to learn everybody's name and where they were from. And I remember coming through this cabin at the bunk beds and saying, Jeannie Williamson, Pulaski, Libby Motlow, Lynchburg, Carol Crawford, Fayetteville, and on and on. We had to know everybody's name. So for some reason, I remember this cabin for that so much. I guess maybe I had the hardest names to learn in this cabin. So it's no bunk beds. What is it today?
It was their living room when the Davidsons lived on this side, and currently we use it for overflow for the bridesmaids, the family. When it's warm outside, they can come in and cool off, but we're eventually going to turn this into a banquet hall. So on cooler days, they'll have a place to come inside and have an indoor facility.
That's great. And this was also Bill and Jenkins' living room, dining room. This was the areas that we were talking about, the kitchen and the restroom, and this was where Bill and Deborah lived for several years while they took care of Havelon. Okay, now let's go to the infirmary. This was the place over here where if you got sick or got scratched or needed help, you would come over to the infirmary. And in the back of the infirmary is also where some of the male counselors would stay, because they would have male counselors even during the girls' camps. And so this would be where they would stay, right here. This reminds me of a lot of times here at this infirmary, and like I said, the craft house is beside it. So, but also down below is the middle cabin, and that was the cabin where I stayed. So let's go to the middle cabin. As you can see, this is the lower cabin, and this cabin had bunk beds lined up on both sides. I can remember exactly, mine was on the other side, and if we were on the other side, I could show you exactly what window it was that I looked out of. But this was the lower cabin where I was. Now we had, because there was 3 cabins, this is the middle, I'm sorry. There was a lower, middle, and upper. And the upper is where the Jenkins lived, this is the middle, and we'll go down to the lower. how beautiful it still is today. I can still see the lower cabin and the mess hall. You know, Annie Matt was our cook, and oh, she had such delicious meals. And so you had the mess hall, but then you also had the lower cabin here. Now today, it is just still absolutely beautiful. And we got some pews. Will you talk to us about why these pews are here?
These pews are here. We had a wedding on Saturday. My daughter and her new husband Kelly got married out here Saturday. We purchased these to use at the venue, so anyone else who has a wedding out here has the opportunity to use these in their wedding. 18 solid oak pews. Makes a beautiful sight out here in the greenery and the landscape.
It's a beautiful sight. You know, Camp Dunroamin was known for its beauty, and we are so proud that the Davidsons are holding up to that and keeping the beauty here. And you ladies, both of you, working so hard to keep it as pretty. Everybody in Fayetteville, Lincoln County and all around, you know, it wasn't just local people that came to Camp Dunroamin.
Right.
People from all around, all several states came to Camp Dunroamin. This is part of the front view of Jimmy and Havelon Gearish's home. Jimmy played a big part in designing this home. He had ideas of how he wanted it to look. This is the side of the Gearish home, and it just shows the uniqueness of it, the beautiful steps, and then the arch, small arch door over here and red door where you go into extra storage, and the seats, how the seats are up there made out of rock. Jimmy thought about all details. This is a view of the old fireplace that's in the Gearish home in their den, and it's just perfect. And this is the back view of the Gearish home. It shows the unique windows that he put in the back here in the storage area. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come to Camp Dunroamin. We can share so many memories with people all over, and they will appreciate this as much as we do. Now, would you please tell us about the opportunities that we have now at Camp Dunroamin?
At Camp Dunroamin, we now offer a place for weddings, anniversary parties, bridal showers, birthday parties, class reunions, any type of big celebration. You have a large group that needs somewhere to get together.
So even if anybody wonders what they can do out here, y'all would not mind if they called you and just asked you questions?
Not at all, and they're welcome to come by, set up an appointment, come and look at the place, and just see all the beauty that we see here.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so very much.
Well, it's been a great tour, and there's so many people to thank. I mean, you got a lot of people together as we got some really great interviews, and we did those over at the First Presbyterian Church. We'd like to thank them for helping us have a facility to do that.
Very much so. Yes, we do thank the First Presbyterian Church. They gave us their hospitality room for a day to do all the interviews, and then we had several different people that came for the interviews that y'all will be hearing, and we just appreciate everybody. We've even called several other people who have shared information with us about the Gearishes and the life of the Gearish.
It's a beautiful place. It's been a great tour, and it's something I think just this week we had our scholarship winners, and I think about a year ago we said we need to do something on the Gearishes. Sometimes it takes a year to pull all that together, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there who's got more stories to tell about the Gearishes because they affected literally thousands and thousands of people.
Did. You know, they left so much money to the Fayetteville Rotary Club for scholarships, and as you say, we just issued 4 yesterday at the Rotary Club. And it was last year when 1 or 2 Rotarians said, I've heard about the Gearishes, but who are the Gearishes? And that's when you came up to me and you said, hey, let's review at the Gearishes and share their life with everybody.
And we've done it. I'm proud.
Yes.
I feel good. It's going to be good for
excited.
Our community, for Fayetteville, Lincoln County, and it's also going to be good for Rotary, for people, to let people know that Rotary played a big history as it's still strong today.
Yes, very much so.
Carol Foster with the Fayetteville Rotary Club and Fayetteville Main Street today. I'm Don Counts with Fayetteville Public Utilities. We appreciate you watching and hope you enjoyed this story on Dunroamin, Havelon, and Jimmy Gearish.